What I really like about this exchange is Max goes for what's called a Korean single, and it's very safe and minimum. I'll be showing a video afterwards on how to do it, but he mixes it with threat of striking, going from the takedown attempt to the right hand, and then timing the flying knee when he's up against the fence squared up. One of the most safe times to go for the knee because the lack of counters that the opponent's able to do while he's on the fence. Another example of someone who uses this takedown attempt a lot was Frankie Edgar. Being a shorter fighter, it's a good tool to use when you're facing taller or fighters who like to fight a long range, like Yair Rodriguez.
In the man's chest. If you put your head in the man's chest, now you're in a Korean single. This is not to be confused with putting your head under somebody's arm. If you put your head under somebody's arm, you're not really going into a single leg anymore. You're going into what we call a high crotch. Okay, now this is not a great position for me because my neck is exposed. Can you grab me in a guillotine here? You can see now he's grabbing me in a guillotine. I try to avoid putting my head under the arm. There's a time and place to put our head under the arm, and from there we can learn crackdowns, knee taps, crotch lifts, etc. But that's a whole other segment and a whole other video. But it's still very dangerous because even if Neil's not the best grappler, if he's strong enough, if he's a very strong athlete, and he grabs a hold of my neck, he can put me to sleep if he has a good squeeze. Okay, so I personally never let guys get on my neck. My whole game is to avoid them getting on my neck. Of course, we're going to study our guillotine counters and our defenses, but we first avoid the problem altogether. We try to never put our arm under somebody's neck. Okay, that's why we're going to bring the Korean single. Now, guys, when we're training, if my partner's shoulders are above his hips, it's really easy for me to shoot a Korean single. It feels like this. I just put my head in his chest, I step through, put your hands on here, look, I step through, and I shoot. Now, of course, in wrestling, they're never standing upright like this. Okay, in freestyle wrestling, they'll never stand upright the way Neil's standing. In jiu-jitsu, you get a much more upright position. Why? Because if he's bent over like a traditional wrestler, like a freestyle wrestler, I have more access to his neck. Okay, he doesn't want me to grab his neck because in jiu-jitsu we can choke, and there's a lot of great finishes from there. Okay, so in jiu-jitsu, you're gonna see a lot of more upright position. We're gonna be fighting from here. Guys, when we're fighting from here and he's in an upright position, I see his shoulders are above his hips. They're not in front of his hips. Like so, now his hips are really far back and his shoulders are really far forward. It's hard for me to shoot a single here. It takes a lot of energy. It's very risky. I'm not gonna do it. Okay? When my partner's upright, and notice my partner's upright, you're gonna see me step in. I'm gonna step in and put my head in the middle, and I'm gonna reach for his leg. When I reach for his leg, I'm not lifting his leg off the ground. No, that's no good. Okay? It's a lot of energy. It's not gonna work. We're walking through our partner. Look how I'm walking through our partner. This is what we call finishing on the go. And now I'm gonna go into my maneuvers. So I just tried to dump Neil. He didn't fall, and I hiked it up into a high single. You guys know this finish. We drilled it. We saw it. We studied it. Okay? When I enter the legs, I enter with my head in the chest, and I walk through the target. Okay? So we're gonna put Neil on that A here. Okay? We're gonna make an X here. Neil, you're gonna be right on top of this X. Okay? The letter A is underneath him. Watch when I shoot. He's upright. It's time for me to shoot my single. When I shoot my single, I grab the back of the leg. I put my head in his chest and I grab the back of the leg. When I grab the back of the leg, I don't lift. There's no lifting involved. You can notice that my back is straight. It's very important to have a straight back. I'm going to walk through the target. When I walk through the target, now the leg comes up. From here, we're going to start to dump. Once we start to dump, we're going to open up our partner for our attacks. Okay, we're going to start to follow up with our attacks. Okay, come back in. If my partner's upright, I start thinking about my Korean singles. Okay? I shoot forward, hips down, head up, back straight. I trap the back of the leg. I start to run through. I penetrate through. I drive through. Don't underestimate the value of driving through. Let's go back to the center. From here, guys, as I'm walking forward, I'm trying to finish. I'm trying to finish my maneuvers. I'm trying to finish that single leg. Okay, we call that finishing on the go. You're driving through him. You're going places, and as you're going into your attacks that we learned earlier. My partner's upright. If I catch my partner upright, it's time to shoot a Korean single. When I shoot a Korean single, guys, I step back first. If I want to go forward, I have to step back first. Okay, when I step back first, it allows my back to stay straight. Okay? I don't want to step forward with the lead leg because now it's very difficult because my hips are not low. My hips are too high. Okay? When I'm wrestling with my partner, if I step back, you can see that my back is straight. My hips are low, and now I can fire right through. Okay? I drive my head into his chest. I use the side of my head here. I connect my head to his chest and I drive through. I step through. Once I step through, it's time for me now to start dumping my partner to his hands. If I dump into his hands, from here, I can follow up with my maneuvers. Come back up, and we're hiking up the leg. From here, we're doing our finishes that we saw earlier. Okay? Here like so. I'm fighting with my partner. He's upright. Why is he upright? He doesn't want me to guillotine him. He's upright. When he's upright, we're going to see later how to shoot on somebody who's not exposing his chest, but his chest is exposed. Here it's time for me to shoot. Look, I shoot. I shoot right through. I shoot right through. I go right into my trips. I was able to bump and trip. And now look, he kind of recovered. I highlight. Boom. We go back to our finishes that we saw earlier. Guys, we're shooting that Korean single. That's the simplest entry. We're going to look at some more complicated entries coming.